The main one is most people think that they're not important enough or they don't have enough money to be targeted. But in fact, that's not the case. I mean, cyber threats or hackers will go after just about anyone. They can steal your identity, they can steal your social security number, your bank account information, open up accounts in your name that you don't even know about, take out loans in your name that you don't even know about, and vanish, and leaving you to deal with the mess. So it doesn't matter how rich you are, how much money you have, or just how unimportant you feel you may be. Everyone's a target, and it's important for everyone to have a plan in place to keep themselves protected. Welcome to the GWH Steps to Success podcast. This is the podcast where I uncover the secrets to achieving financial freedom and success. Join me, Chris Cice, along with my co-host, Mike Cice, from GWH Wealth Advisors, as we guide you through the complex world of wealth management, retirement, and tax planning. At GWH Wealth Advisors, we believe that everyone deserves the tools and knowledge to shape their financial future. Now here we are, your hosts, Chris and Mike Cice.
Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and GWH Wealth Advisors, LLP, are not affiliated.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of the GWH Steps to Success podcast. I'm Chris Cice. I'm here with Mike Cice along with Riley Masterson. And today we wanted to do an episode about cybersecurity. Why? Because it affects, not only our clients, ourselves, our families, but just about everyone we know or we're trying to help. So any kind of information that we can get out to everyone, I think will be helpful to help protect themselves in this world of cyber threats and artificial intelligence and just where the world is going in terms of security. So I'd like to turn it over to Mike, who has some questions for me and Riley, and we can get started.
Yeah, I guess the best place to start with, let's discuss some of the misconceptions that people have about their personal cybersecurity. If you guys can go over a couple of the misconceptions there.
Yeah, I guess the main one is most people think that they're not important enough or they don't have enough money to be targeted. But that, in fact, that's not the case. Cyber threats or hackers will go after just about anyone. They can steal your identity, they can steal your social security number, your bank account information, open up accounts in your name that you don't even know about, take out loans in your name that you don't even know about, and vanish, and leaving you to deal with the mess. So it doesn't matter how rich you are or how much money you have or just how unimportant you feel you may be. Everyone's a target. And it's important for everyone to have a plan in place to keep themselves protected.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I know a lot of people that say something similar to that, as in, I don't have any money in my bank account. What could they steal from me? Or my credit's not that well. What are they going to open up a loan? They can't, things like that. And they think that they're not going to be targeted, exactly like you just said. But it's the low-hanging fruit that has to worry about it sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a lot of money and a hacker or a cybersecurity breach causes you to lose more money than you have. That's an even bigger problem. So it's an important issue for everyone.
So let's talk about, give me the top 3 habits individuals should adopt to improve their personal cybersecurity. What do you think the 3 things they should really concentrate on?
Yeah, so starting with the basics, using strong, unique passwords for all of your different websites. And I know that sounds daunting because no one likes to remember passwords. But ideally, you can use a password manager app. The one that I personally use and we use here at GWH is called LastPass. It's one of the best, but there are others out there as well. And we'll provide some links after this podcast. But what that does is it allows you only have to remember one password, and that's your LastPass password. And then from there, it will automatically generate secure passwords for all of your bank logins, all of your credit card companies, all of your, just anything that you need to keep secure, you should have a different password for. And LastPass or any kind of password app, password manager will store all those for you and automatically fill them in with your user ID. So whenever you go to log into your bank, it'll just pre-fill that information. So you don't have to remember all these crazy, daunting passwords. It does all that for you. Just don't forget your LastPass password. That's the key.
And Chris, are these safe? Because you would think if a hacker only has to find one password, figure out one password to have access to all your passwords, that sounds a little.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming that all these passwords are encrypted, or there's some extra security measures there in place so that they're safe to use things like this.
Yeah, so LastPass is safe, but it's important to have a very good LastPass password. So, and I'm going to use LastPass just as an example. There are other password managers out there, but let's just say, you want to have your most secure password that you can remember or have written down somewhere should be your LastPass password. And then there's two-factor authentication. So LastPass uses two-factor authentication. Most financial institutions and banks and credit card companies are all using two-factor authentication, and that's the next step. So once you go in and you change all your passwords, and you want to make them as crazier the better, using uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, whatever they'll allow. You want to use the most secure password you can, because you don't have to remember it.
Chris, what does something like that cost? What can people expect to pay on a monthly basis for LastPass or password manager of that
I
nature?
think it's somewhere around $10 to $15 a month.
Okay.
So, but it's
So
worth
it's
every
reasonable.
penny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely reasonable if as opposed to having your identity stolen.
I guess other question I have is how do they handle their personal data on social media to protect themselves from identity theft and cyber stalking?
Yeah. So, everyone's out there now on social media, Facebook. When you set up your profile, they ask for things like your birthday and where you live and where you went to school. So the more data that is out there about you, those are all just clues and different ways for people to figure out how to get to you. And so I think, limiting the amount of personal information you have on social media websites and that you allow apps to have is important as well, because a hacker could easily figure out. A lot of people will use their personal information, where they went to school or what their birthday is, as a password or a user ID. So I think the less personal information that's out there on the internet, the less chance you have of a hacker kind of figuring out how to get into your programs.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the latest scams and threats that are out there to the individuals on the internet and how people can protect themselves
Yeah,
from being scammed?
Riley, why don't you talk about the recent Social Security threat?
Yeah, of course. So, like we were talking about it the other day, as you see in the news now, it's just becoming more and more of a thing. In our local news channel, we have every week 2 or 3 elderly individuals that are getting hit with these kind of scams. And actually, like you were just saying, a more recent big article in the news this past couple months over the summer is 272 million Social Security numbers were hacked from a Florida-based background check company called National Public Data. They estimate there's actually 2.9 billion records of personal information that were taken: names, email addresses, phone numbers, Social Security numbers, everything. These could be from people that are already dead or still alive, but that just shows how nobody's safe right now, and there's a lot going on. As far as things that are happening right now in the news, what we're seeing a lot of, I've just seen in the news recently, is they're using new ways, kind of like what you were just saying, with protecting your family. So maybe you have a grandmother and you're not even expecting it, and you're putting stuff out there about yourself, personal information online. These hackers will take your information, go to your grandmother or somebody else in your family, pretending to be you, and trying to get them to send them money. I know one example I was just reading last week was you get a phone call, it sounds like it's a sheriff, and he says you've had a warrant out, you didn't pay a ticket you had years ago, you have to send us money to get rid of this, and then all will be okay. And more people are falling for these scams every day.
Yeah, that's the new element that's being introduced kind of into the cyber threat arena, and that's artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence obviously can be used for good and for bad. And, hackers are using artificial intelligence to recreate people's voices. They can sound just like your kids, your grandkids, your parents, your grandparents, and call you up and ask you for money. And once you send them money, I mean, it's gone. That's going to continue to be a big threat, and that people should know about. Another threat is phishing scams continue to be a major problem. You think you get an email from your bank. There's a link in the email. You click on it. You enter in your personal information, thinking that you're logging into your bank website, but in fact, you're just logging into a hacker's website, and they're stealing your information, and they're gaining access to your personal data that way. You mentioned the Social Security breach. At this point, just assume that your Social Security number is out there. Hackers have access to it. You can only hope to control what they do with it. One of the ways to immediately stop a hacker from opening an account in your name using your Social Security number is by locking your credit reports. You can go to all three major credit bureaus and lock your credit report. So that way, if anyone tries to open an account in your name using your Social Security number, you'll get an alert, and you can either say, hey, that's me, or no, that wasn't me, but the hacker won't be able to open that account. There are companies out there, like a company called LifeLock, which will do it for you. You could pay a monthly fee, and they'll monitor your credit reports and lock them and unlock them as you need to in case you need to take out a loan. So the other major thing, too, about Social Security numbers, and we highly recommend, and that is going to socialsecurity.gov's website. So it's socialsecurity.gov. And if you haven't already, set up an account at Social Security before somebody else does. So even if you're 25 years old, Riley, go to socialsecurity.gov, open up an account, set up a password that only you'll remember, store it in your LastPass before somebody else does.
Otherwise, they'll have your Social Security payments going to them in the future instead of you.
Exactly.
So more and more people are using mobile devices to do their banking, to pay bills and what have you. What are some of the vulnerabilities, or are mobile devices more vulnerable than your laptop computer or your desktop computer? What's the different vulnerabilities there and the different technologies we use?
So it all depends. Really, it's how your device is connected to the internet, right? So if you are on a mobile device and you're just connected to the internet through your personal Verizon or AT&T internet service, you're fairly secure. However, if you're in an airport or if you're in a hotel room and you have your laptop or your iPad or your phone connected to, let's say, Marriott's, in-hotel Wi-Fi, you are extremely exposed. Everything that you do on your device is out there. You're on a public Wi-Fi network, and you're certainly at risk. So what we recommend, what the experts recommend, is having a VPN installed on all of your mobile devices, your laptops, your iPhone, your Android phone, tablets, iPads, etc. It's going to cost a little bit of money to set up a VPN, but you could go to NordVPN or Norton or any of these other VPN services. And what a VPN does is it creates a private connection between your device and the internet. So even if you're connected to the internet in an airport or at a hotel or in a coffee shop, if you have a VPN, it's almost like a filter that blocks the public from getting to the information that you're sending out via your mobile device. And we'll include some links to some popular VPN services as well. And what VPN stands for is Virtual Private Network.
That was going to be my next question, VPN, Virtual Private Network.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've noticed too, I have an iPhone, and if you download new apps or on certain websites, it'll actually ask you if you would like this website to track you, or if they're allowed to have your data and things like that. And now I've come accustomed to just immediately, no, I do not want to be tracked. I do not want them to have my personal data, because the more apps and subscriptions and places you put in your personal information, nowhere safe anymore. As we know, it's just luck of the draw of who's going to get hacked next, and just you just want to limit how often your information's out there.
Yeah, I mean, Riley, you sent me that link to that I've been pawned website where you can actually put in your email address and see how many apps or how many breaches that your email address has been compromised in. And it's pretty incredible. You know, I've been using the same email address for 20 years, and it's been exposed or compromised in about 12 different breaches, including, you know, fitness apps or LinkedIn or just various websites that got breached. And now they have not only have my email address, if I don't have a secure password, there's a good chance that they know my passwords for multiple websites, especially if you're using the same one.
Yeah, I agree. We'll definitely put some of those links below for those websites where you could put in your information and see where it's been leaked onto the dark web and other things out there. And when I looked up mine, I'm the same boat as you. I've been using my same email for 15 years now. And there's things on there from back in 2010 that I subscribed for, apps I downloaded and put in my email, password, date of birth, all my information that I haven't used in 10, 15 years. And they got leaked maybe 5 years ago. And it has my email, my password, disturbing information right there. Just, I could look at it. I'm like, wow, that's my password right there, just out in the open on the internet. So those are some great sites. We'll put some links below for those.
Wow. So there's a big rise in ransomware, and businesses were affected at first and being held for ransom. How's that affecting the everyday person now, not just businesses? And what do they have to be aware of?
So for the most part, ransomware is still targeting businesses, but even small businesses. So what ransomware is, you know, a hacker will get into your computer network, get into your computer, and it'll hold all of your information hostage. If you're trying to run a business or a company, or even it could affect it. Yeah, it could affect if a hacker really wants to go after an individual bad enough and lock up all of their personal information, and then they demand a ransom to unlock it. And it's the only way to unlock it. You have to spend a lot of money. They most likely will only accept Bitcoin or, you know, some form of cryptocurrency to release your information back to you. So it's pretty scary. I mean, to have to pay, you know, tens of thousands of dollars as a business owner, a small business owner, just to get your information back. But that's what's happening.
Yeah, didn't they, what was that, a couple years ago with the Vegas casinos? They hit all the Vegas casinos, and I think there was one casino that was kind of holding back, that they were waiting. They didn't want to pay them, but all the other ones already did.
Yeah, causes a major lockup.
Yep.
You can't run a business without your information.
Yeah, they were losing millions of dollars a day, not having them operational, and they were just kind of forced to, do I just pay these people or lose more money? It's tough.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Before we wrap it up, I have probably two more questions. One, I know you talked about this earlier, and that is two-factor authentication. Can you explain exactly what that is and how it works?
Yeah, so two-factor authentication, sometimes you'll see it referred to as 2FA, is when you log into a website and you put in your ID and password. I'm sure many people have used this every day. They'll send a text message to your phone with a 6-digit number or a 5-digit number that you have to enter in for you to be able to log in. That's two-factor authentication. So it's an additional step besides just using a user ID and password to allow you to log into a website or a service or an app. And it could be a text message, it could be an email, it could be they have two-factor authentication apps, like Microsoft has one, Google has one. There's a few other ones out there where, you know, you enter in your user ID and password to log into a website. You have to open up an app on your phone and pull up your Google authentication app. It has 6 numbers sitting there waiting for you. You plug those in before it'll actually let you log into that website. So that's just an additional layer of security. If a hacker does happen to get your user ID and password somehow, if you're not using LastPass, if you're using the same password for every single website, chances are a hacker has that information. They're going to try it in other places. Two-factor authentication at least puts an additional layer of security in the event that your password gets stolen.
So now how annoying I find it, it's still best for me to have two-factor
Yeah,
authentication on my app.
especially people like me. I'm definitely guilty of one of them who uses the same password for a lot of things, and I know just firsthand how bad that is to do. At least having the second authentication helps a little bit, gives you a little bit more peace of mind.
And if you ever get a text message from, a two-factor authentication text message from a website that you didn't try to log into, chances are that's a hacker trying to log into that website, using your information. So if you ever get a two-factor authentication password or code sent to your email address or your phone that you didn't request, change your password.
Yep. I almost feel like I wish they had.
How often should people change their passwords? That's
that's
a great idea.
It's recommended to change it every 6 months or so. If you're using ultra strong passwords and saving them in a password manager like LastPass, you probably don't have to do it every 6 months. Maybe every year would probably be sufficient. But if you're one of those people that uses the same variations of passwords over and over again, probably want to change them more regularly.
Finally, should people be concerned about the companies that are collecting their personal data and using that? And what can they do to eliminate that? Or at least limit it, not eliminate, but limit.
Yeah, I mean, they should be concerned. There are ways to opt out of your information being used. Every company, when you sign up for a product or service, of course, they're going to hit you with the terms of service agreement that no one ever reads, but most likely in that fine print is how they're using your personal information. And there are ways to opt out. So without telling you to, bore yourself to death reading the fine print of all the terms and services of every single product or services that you sign up for, it may not be a bad idea because that's how you could protect your information.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Riley. I think we covered a lot of territory today. There's a lot more to cover. I know we'll be posting some things on the website. So I want to thank you for being here today and look forward to the next episode of Steps to Success.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us this week on the GWH Steps to Success podcast. Make sure to visit gwhadvisors.com where you can subscribe to the show or tune in on iTunes or Spotify so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate you hit the thumbs up button. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this episode, you may want to check out more content available on our website. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode filled with actionable insights and financial wisdom. Until then, this is Chris Cice signing off.